Today is my first track day in the car. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Mondays with Mover. I am Mover C.W. Lemoine, author of the Spectre series. A special episode today going out to NOLA Motorsports Park for their Track Night in America with the SCCA event. First time going to the track in this car, so it's been about 10 years since I've been to a track event, so should be a lot of fun. What's up, dog?
Hey, Mover.
So you might be wondering why there's blue painter's tape all over the car. Well, I wanted to protect the paint, and because I was a total noob, I had read that a lot of people use blue painter's tape because I couldn't get Expel done in time for the track event and couldn't find a place to order the Expel track wrap. So I spent the afternoon prior using blue painter's tape, wrapping the front, wrapping every place that I thought, thinking that I would show up and I wouldn't be the only one because everyone else would do the same thing if they didn't have Expel. As it turns out, I was wrong. No one else had it, and after one session, I realized the rocks actually weren't that bad. It was a very clean track, so we took it off between session 1 and 2.
We are going to the advanced and intermediate briefing.
So here with Courtney, right?
Yep, Courtney Rivers.
With Track Night in America. Tell me about what we're here to do.
Yeah, so Track Night in America is all about getting you and your street car out on a racetrack with as little hassle and challenge as possible. It's all about bring what you got, have a great time. A lot of our tracks even rent helmets, so if you don't have one of those, just let us know and we can see what we can do to help you out. We have people bring everything from Civics, Miatas, BRZs. We've got a guy in his Jeep Cherokee out here today. As long as it's wider than it is tall and has basic safety equipment and a license plate, you're pretty much good to go. We really love people that have never been to a racetrack before. But we also welcome people who are seasoned track people and just kind of want a good casual afternoon at the racetrack. We usually go hot at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and we're done about 7:45. If you are interested in learning more, we have a website, www.tracknightinamerica.com, and you can go on there, put in your zip code. We have 145 events scheduled this year across the country at about 32 different racetracks. So pretty much anywhere you are, we can get you on a racetrack.
So what's rule number 1? What is the only rule here?
So my rule is leave with a smile. We're all about making sure that everyone has a great time. We really try to encourage people to work together on the racetrack. If everyone is, checking flags, if everyone is giving passing signals and kind of working together out there, everyone collectively has a much better time. So we're really conscious of kind of watching the track and making sure nobody's out there, stealing other people's fun.
Yeah.
We just really want people to come out and be able to have a great time.
And obviously the best car is what? Blue Camaro, maybe?
Best car, totally Blue Camaro. Certainly.
All right. High five. Thanks for everything. About to go out for the first laps. I'm even gonna do the chin strap. Thank you.
Hit it.
I'll try. Don't do that. All right, guys, fun, man. My first lap on the track, I was actually pretty nervous. I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't been on this course before. My first lap was my first lap ever at NOLA Motorsports Park. So knew the course layout only by looking at the map, so I wanted to be as conservative as possible because I like my car. And I ran in what's called PTM wet in the competitive driving mode of the magnetic ride, and just tried to take it as easily as possible while learning the car and being conservative. You will notice, you'll hear the exhaust tone change, and that's because the wet traction mode actually takes away a lot of power to keep the wheels from spinning because it thinks the track is wet. Probably too conservative, and eventually I'll take it out of the PTM mode and just run track mode. I intentionally started towards the rear of the field because I was afraid I was just going to be slow, because my goal was just to go out and enjoy the car and get to know the car and have a lot of fun. I didn't think I was going to try to be fast, but after you're on the track a little while, you start wanting to go a lot faster. So with my first lap on the way, you can see the blue tape already starting to flap around. I felt a lot more confident in the car, and I started actually to catch up with the blue Mustang up ahead. You'll see here, as we're driving around, one of the cars, the red Porsche, actually spins out in front of us on the next lap. So I was very cautious and careful because obviously, there was no caution flag thrown. He just spun out and tried not to hit him. This is my fourth lap, which for the session ends up being my best lap. Get out of traffic and it starts to go well. I got a feel for the track. I felt a lot more comfortable. I took it out of the wet traction mode and put it in just track. It's still very conservative, but not quite as bad as having the system think it's a wet track. I honestly thought that I would miss having a manual transmission. A lot of people have given me crap about having a 10-speed automatic, and honestly, throughout the day, it didn't bother me even a little bit. This car shifts faster than any automatic I've ever driven and is very seamless. It never bogs down. It never seems like it's not in the right gear. And I tried paddle shifting. I think you might have seen that back with the Porsche, but you can't beat the transmission. It goes into performance shift mode, and it's always where it needs to be, which actually made it a lot more enjoyable because now I'm focusing on my racing line than what gear I need to be in and shifting back and forth. get a 207 in that one, which is not extremely fast, but it's respectable for the first time out. And then I will run up on the Mustang and finally catch him. And then on the straightaway here, he finally lets me by. So it's the next lap, and I pass the Mustang. I'm nice. It's my first pass. I wave, but sticking your arm out the window at 130 miles an hour, in hindsight, probably not the best idea. And I'll get in the traffic and just run with everybody. I was passing people. It was a lot of fun. And then, you know, at the end of the thing, 7 laps, it's awesome. You know, I'm sitting there, and you know, there's no timing for this, so I'm not sure how I'm doing, but it feels like I'm getting faster. And obviously now, having been able to pull the GPS data, it is a little bit faster. First 20 minutes.
Yeah, what did you think?
On the track, that's fun. That's fun. I passed a Mustang.
Oh, well, that you should pass Mustangs.
No, dude, he was fast at first. When I was in wet track mode, he was going.
Was it the blue one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy deserved to be passed.
Oh, I walked him.
He was the one that did burnout going out of the pits.
Yeah, well, I passed him. That's not us.
And then he went 4 off in turn 1 about halfway through the session.
Did he?
Yep.
I never saw him go off the track.
No, I was in the tower listening to the radios.
Was it in front of me?
Yeah. It was like a half a lap in front of you.
Maybe that's why I caught him. That's probably not something I'm going to admit.
I don't think that's why you caught him.
Maybe that's why he pointed me by.
Use more track. Get your elbows out over the sides of the track. I mean, like, it should feel like if you had your elbow out, it would be dragging in the grass. Usually people are not looking far enough ahead.
I feel like I do that.
Yeah, like, okay, so when you know the S's,
Yeah.
9, 10, 11,
Yeah.
when you're coming out of 11, you should be looking at the number 3 braking marker for 13.
Yeah.
Or even at, like, as you're coming out of 10, look at the apex of 11, your eyes should go past the apex of 11 out to the braking marker at 13. So that far ahead. It's like a turn and a half.
Shots fired.
When you're out there, it's a lot easier to say, okay, when you're here, you should be looking there, but that's one really good example.
All right, back to the Camaro for the second session. We took off the blue tape because it wasn't doing anything, and it was ugly. And then some Camaro came up next to me and did that.
First call, intermediate drive.
So for session 2, after getting some pointers from Doug, I felt a lot more confident going out on the track and had some better ideas of how to use the whole track to my advantage and try to be a little bit faster. This lap was my second lap, and the Mini Coopers were awesome. Point me by. The passing system here is point by. You can only pass when someone moves over and points you by in designated passing zones. That's the intermediate stage. So this lap here actually ends up being my fastest lap, but a trend I'll have all day is when I'll pass somebody, like right here, I will have the urge to get away as quickly as possible and overcook it into the next corner. So right here you'll see I'll go way too deep, end up getting slow, and then way off my line and stuff. But this ends up being my fastest lap of the day, 2:03.659, which again, I think the car's got more in it. The car is way better than I am, but it's still a respectable lap time, especially for being the first time out. most about the car is it's very solid and very stable. You can see I'm not having to work a lot with the wheel because it just goes where you point it, and it has a lot of grip, and it's very centered, very stable, and it pulls a lot of lateral G's. I mean, 1.5, that's incredible. I never expected it to be that awesome. And the very next lap, I'll run back into traffic, and this will actually be a trend. This will actually affect the third session. I get behind this Corvette, and I call him Grandpa Vet because for whatever reason, the guy goes out there and refuses to go above about 115, which if you look on YouTube and look at NOLA Motorsports Park, 203, the speeds I'm running are actually pretty comparable to a Stingray Vet, a Grand Sport Vet. It's right in the same league. This guy was just very slow. He was not looking to go very fast, which I get. It's intermediate, it's a track day, it's supposed to be fun, but what he had a problem with was pointing by, which, you know, as I said, it's a cooperative drill to get out of the way. If you know someone's obviously behind you and in your rearview mirrors, you get out of the way and let them go because you know you're slow. Right here, the top speed we'll get is 118 miles an hour on the straightaway. And you can see from the time before I was doing 140 right here. So eventually, half a lap later, he finally points me by to pass. Way late going into the turn, almost out of the passing zone. But it'll be a factor later on, and I'll show you that. So lap 5, once I get out of traffic, this will be not my fastest lap because it's about a tenth off of the 203.6, but I think it's the smoothest. And you can see actually that was what I was grabbing down there was a piece of the upholstery. Actually, my knee had bumped up the plastic and knocked it off in my lap, so I had to pick it up and put it on the seat. But I think this is my smoothest lap and the best line. But because of this, I think I can be faster because there's a lot of speed that I'm losing, you know, just by braking a little early, not running the right line. Doug actually, after this, we went through the video and gave me some good points, so I'm looking forward to next time. But this is the smoothest lap, not the fastest lap. Two clean runs I get all day because, as you can see here, I run into traffic shortly thereafter and get stuck behind the Porsche. It takes a couple laps for him to point me by, but he points me by, I wave, I appreciate it, and then I start running up on more traffic. now in the session, and then after that, there's an intermission for parade laps, and Doug takes me out in his daily driver M3. Doug is a NASA instructor. Actually, he's a NASA official and a NASA instructor. And we have parade laps, but we actually use this as a time for him to show me the proper race line, where my car should be in the turns, and it was very, very helpful.
Are there still people out here? Yeah, there are people behind us.
So session 3 is the last session. I was hoping to really take what Doug had taught me, get a good racing line, and apply what I'd learned. But the problem is I get stuck behind these two minis, or the Mini and the Mustang, for a really long time. It takes them a while to point me by, and then you'll see this session's mostly just about passing. And it's through no fault of their own. The Mini guys were very fast through the turns, but they just couldn't hang on the straightaways. I mean, only doing 100, you know, that's about 40 miles an hour slow. But the Mini will allow me to pass coming out of the final turn, going on the straightaway.
Right.
It's onto the Mustang, which I get stuck behind for a really long time. He also has very low situational awareness and doesn't really see me back there, despite me being all over, you know, his mirrors and back bumper and stuff. And that's the thing. I mean, it's very hard to do that. But eventually, I'll come out on the front stretch, moves over, points me by. I think it's about to be a clean run. I'm trying to get away from him because I know we're similar horsepower, and he can keep up, and I'm trying to get as much distance as we can. The problem is, on this turn, I will way overcook it turning and almost spin out about right here. Thankfully, the traction management system kind of saves my bacon, but definitely a trend, especially going into a lap like that. But within another lap, I'm behind the Corvette, and this time, whereas before he was actually somewhat reasonable in pointing me by, this time it's not even close. And he's running 20 to 30 miles an hour slow the entire course, and for some reason he wants to go through the puddles every time he sees it. And we just ride around behind Grandpa Vet for most of the session. And it's very frustrating. You can see here 115 on the top. He's a good 30 miles an hour off the pace. But he ends up running up on the Porsche, and it takes us a while where we're not even doing 100, we're doing 85. He gets a point by, I get a subsequent point by, and eventually Grandpa Vet will let me by, but you can see it's already lap 6, which is 12 minutes into it. He gives me the point by. I'm thinking, great, this is awesome. I'm finally going to get a clean lap. I can finally apply what Doug has taught me. And no kidding, almost at the end of the lap, I get the fuel low light. And having never tracked this car before, I don't know how many laps I can get on a fuel low light. Usually you get the fuel low light, you got about 50 miles left in normal driving. but I didn't want to press the test to see how many laps I could get before I'd actually run out of gas and have to be pushed back. So I do one more top-ish speed run just to see what I can do on the front stretch for one more hoorah, and then I'll throttle back the rest of this lap and eventually go into the pits and call it a day because I need to go to the fuel pumps. Well, we ran out of gas, but fun day. We'll go home now. A sweet car.
Thank you.
What is it?
It's a BMW i8.
i8. Did you run it?
From the back. No, I did the parade lap thing.
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't the White Lotus.
Oh, you brought two cars?
They told my car, because it's not street legal, so.
Oh, wow. Now look inside?
Yeah, yeah.
Jeez. Oh, wait. I was like, I'm waiting for it to like, and nothing. It just hums away like a golf cart.
Yeah, 200 mile an hour golf.
Hey, all in all, successful day.
That
was a lot. That was a lot of fun.
I think it.
Did it look like
It's liable to make you an addict.
Was this fun? Hell yes. Track night is awesome. This whole setup, what they've got is outstanding, reasonably priced, very low key. I was kind of nervous because I hadn't done one of these, but it was super awesome. Great time. I really appreciate Doug coming out to help me. The folks at the SCCA that are putting this on are really doing a highly professional job. It's very safe. The track was well prepared. I thought it was just awesome. So thank you to SCCA for putting this out, and I hope they do more, and thanks to Doug for coming out. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, let me know in the comments if you want to see some more Corvette, or correction, Camaro. I used to have a Corvette. If you want to see some more Camaro stuff, next episode we'll go back to some flying stuff. I'll talk about what it's like to have an emergency and how we deal with that kind of thing. And then in future episodes, more flying stuff, some more shooting stuff. I mean, hell, we'll do whatever's going on at the time. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.